Welcome to Muskegon Rising, a community service project of the Muskegon Rotary Club. Our purpose is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here since 1916. So, let's get started.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Kendra Robinson, a proud member of Rotary, and today we are going to be interviewing Miss Patsy Petty. She's a friend of mine at this point, but I met her years ago in the community out doing some of the many community engagement events she's doing, and I believe she'll be a wonderful guest for us today on Muskegon Rising. Good afternoon, Miss Patsy.
Good afternoon.
All right, I'll be calling you Patsy if that's okay. You know, we're a little more informal than that, so. All right, well, thank you for joining us today. I think Muskegon in some form or some way has met you throughout the years. And I describe you as being a community activist, an engagement officer, a warrior for peace. But what's the title that you would give yourself in all the many roles you play, you do, that you're involved in, that would give Muskegon a good idea of who you are before we jump into all the information you have to share?
To put it in a nutshell, just a humble servant trying to serve my community to make it a better place.
Wonderful. Well, Patsy, if you can, just give us a little introduction about yourself. Tell us, how long you've been living here. How'd you come to Muskegon? And we'll go from there.
Okay, my parents migrated here. My mother migrated from Arkansas, my dad from Mississippi, and they came in the late 40s. And because of the industrial environment here. And so with that, then there was, just like regular people, raising their families. There were five boys and 4 girls.
Big family.
And so we all went to school at Muskegon Heights. And, I graduated in 1966. I went to MCC. But I always had a passion for justice and equality because my law classes always fascinated me. And that was one aspect of my life. And then I always loved fashions. And so, but I always was about justice and equality in Muskegon. And that's where my passion lies and has always. And I started out, with being active in the Urban League at the time and the NAACP youth group. I marched in several marches for civil rights during that era.
Okay, so your family came in here in the 40s, and you just mentioned how you marched in the civil rights. So are we talking about maybe late 50s, early 60s?
No, it was the 19 Civil Rights Voting Act. And we had
1964, right?
64, yes. And we had several youth groups through the Urban League and the NAACP, which I was an avid member.
Is that right here in Muskegon?
Yes, it was right here in Muskegon.
I'm assuming that you were probably part of the grassroots of those organizations in Muskegon. Do any of those still exist today?
Well, yeah, they exist, but sparingly. They're not as active, and they don't have the youth involvement as during the time that when I was involved in it. And I would love to see that get back to that again. And, because there were so many programs, mentorships on how to get jobs and how, young ladies should conduct themselves and so many aspects things. Of, social type activities that they provided for us as young ladies and so forth.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You said that you had a passion. You had a passion for community involvement. Was that instilled by your parents? Was that just for you seeing the need in your community? Or maybe the times as it was that we needed more engagement and kind of
Well, I think it's probably seeing that. And then one of the things, I met John F. Kennedy when I was 11 years old at Pure Marquette Park when he visited Muskegon. And then I guess it was in my genetics because I found out on my mother's side of people, my great-great-grandfather came on a slave ship in South Carolina. And then he fought in the Gettysburg War. So I guess then my great-grandmother was in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And they tell me at that time she was very involved into politics. So
even then.
Wonderful. I guess I inherited it.
And still today.
Yes.
Miss Patsy, how long have you been here in Muskegon?
I was born in 1948, and so I've been here for almost 76 years.
Wow. That's a long history in this community. What keeps you engaged? What keeps your passion burning from that young age you had to stay involved? And we're going to delve into a lot of those things that you're involved in. But what is it that you see some 50 plus years later to still want to be engaged in what you saw even during John F. Kennedy's era?
I just, my compassion for people, equality, and justice, and now, why my passion still exists is I look at the young people and some of the programs and stuff that I think that helped me back in the day. I think if we initiated them today, and an old saying my grandma used to say, idle mind is the devil workshop. We had a lot of people like, it takes a family to raise a family, in which we don't have a lot of that now, but we had different centers and different places that we could go to, and we didn't have a lot of idle time, but now you have so much high-tech stuff
Very
with
true.
the computers and stuff. But I still think, with me just going to a center for Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith, they taught me some significant life skills, which that resonates in my heart and that I still utilize to this day.
Do you feel like Muskegon is missing some of those core development things that used to steer children or youth back then, not only just to be involved in community, but as in their maturity? And
yes, definitely so. Definitely so. Definitely so. And that's something that I think that's what keeps me going is to pay. I want to leave a legacy. And I think if we can bring that type of energy back to Muskegon, back in the day that we had, I think it would make it a better community, and we can have more youth involvement. Because a lot of these kids, they just need attention and love and somebody just to be there for them. You don't know what kind of traumatic experiences that they've had, and they need this kind of mentoring now, and more so now than ever before.
what programs do you see now to offer at least a little bit of that assistance when you're talking about mentoring or things that you may be involved in that can kind of start our youth early, not only in being engaged, but understanding their history and their culture and where they've come from to
Well, I know we have
involved.
a Boys and Girls Club in Muskegon, but, they can only reach and provide so much of that. But we have to kind of expand that. And there's a young group here in Muskegon, and I kind of watch them on Facebook. I believe it's Taking Back Muskegon. And they go right into the neighborhood, the hardcore, working with. Matter of fact, I had the experience of being a chaperone when they went to Lansing to see the Capitol.
Wow.
And
was it an eye-opening experience for them?
yes, those kids, and they, it was very rewarding. And I took the time to, when they didn't understand, to answer questions. And at that time, the Speaker of the House, which I know him, and I talked to him, and he took the time to come out and talk to these kids, and have a conversation with them. And that's, and I look at how that resonated with me meeting John F. Kennedy and what the impact it had on my life.
It's something they probably will never, ever forget.
Never, ever.
Ms. Patsy, I know that you're very involved in the political arena, and not just any particular party, but you want, from my experience with you, you want everybody to be engaged.
Yes.
It's important that everybody is knowledgeable about the things that go on with them. We know this is an election year.
Yes.
And you talk about meeting John F. Kennedy many, many years ago. How important do you believe it is for our youth, our adults, our young adults, our seasoned members of our community to not only be involved in politics, but to understand what's going on around them, even in a national election year? Well,
I think, and one thing I wish that I don't know now what the curriculum in the schools are, unless you're specifically going into law or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, for my involvement in watching people, they don't understand government. There's judicial, legislative, and administrative. And they don't understand how important each one of those branches works together, and one cannot function without the other. And I don't think they understand that. And I think that's one of the things, if they understood that factor, they would be more engaged to get out and cast their vote, because this is our right as a citizen to vote. And like I said, if you don't vote, then you don't have a voice.
And it impacts everybody. Our local school boards, our legislative government for our children, our judicial system is where a lot of people come in contact with, and so on and so forth. Have you ever ran for office?
No, I could have years ago. I guess, the good Lord chooses everybody. He has a passion. And I've always, I started out, I guess, working, like I said, I started out as a precinct delegate when I was 22 years old. And that's far as running for any political office, but I could have, but I guess I just didn't have the, I guess I'm just a down-home country girl, and I like to
work behind the scenes.
And then I don't, all of the that kind of stuff. It just wasn't my calling. That wasn't my part of it.
Did you mind sharing with our listeners some of the organizations you've been a part of? And I know one of them that really touched me when I was learning more about you was the housing, development or the organization you're in, but just a few of the organizations, and share with us a little bit about that organization.
One of them that was dealing with the housing in Muskegon. I was served on the Housing Implementation Committee, but now it has a new title. But that was under when the mayor, Elmer Walcott, was mayor of the city of Muskegon, and I served on that board for many years. And then I also served on the health systems agency for Muskegon. And what it was an agency that I served on as far as representing labor. And at that time, they were trying to get the lithotripter into, it was between, I believe it was Butterworth and, it was Butterworth, and I think it was St. Mary's. And then a lot of the doctors from all around the country was there, and that's when I got to understand a little bit about that medical terminology of it, and that we would be getting something like that in our community. That was for people that had kidney stones and stuff, and that was a very rewarding experience, because that's when I found out that there was so much difference in the technology and the services in Grand Rapids at that time versus Muskegon.
Have you seen Muskegon now develop into a place that is comparable to other big cities when it comes to organizations that's helping with housing and labor unions and things like that? Do you feel Muskegon is growing to a place of equality with some of the bigger municipalities and cities around us?
Well, we have a ways to go.
Okay.
I'll just put it like that. We have a ways to go.
Name some positive change that you have seen in your many years here in Muskegon, and then it could be in any arena. And I know, Ms. Patsy, you've been in many of them. What's the biggest positive change you've seen? Well,
there's a lot of development that's going on in the city, a lot of positive things, and a lot of changes in the city of Muskegon and so forth. And then I'm very impressed with the housing, the projects that they have for seniors and low-income families. And some of those, I know there's a couple of them that the city approved over on Allen and Amity Way. And then I believe Frebel School, that's one of the oldest schools, that's going to be developed into that. And I've seen, and now I'm beginning to see a lot more newer homes that are being built in the communities and so forth. And I'm glad to see that part of it.
More people coming into our community. How would you urge or encourage someone who is not knowledgeable about community involvement and politics and or resources that are in our community? And I know there's many, many things we didn't even talk about yet. But how would you encourage someone who wants to be involved but doesn't know how to be involved, how to get informed about the things that matter, about being engaged and making a positive change? How would you tell them how to start?
Well, the first thing, it has to come from within. You have to have a passion. And once you have that passion, and then now they have a lot of social media outlets and so forth, and they can, utilize those resources as far as social media outlets, and I'm sure there are various organizations that they could get involved with within the city and churches and so forth.
Are you suggesting they start volunteering?
Yes, definitely so. Yes, they must. But you have to have a will and want to do it. And if you have whatever you have a will and will to do, you will make it happen.
Share, you have to share with us. I was amazed when I learned some of the titles that you now possess after many years of service in our community as the first. Patsy Petty was the first. Can you share with us a few of those?
Okay, I was the first at Teledyne Continental Motors in that. At that time, we were the major contractor for military engines for the United States, right here in Muskegon County. And I ran for a labor union position as trustee, and I think that was how I really kind of got and saw how that campaigning and all that worked. And at that time, it was, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 people. And when you ran for an office like that, you actually had to campaign and talk to people and, present yourself and, how you could make a difference in the job you were running for. And I was the first black female, even in the history of, well, it's a different name now, but I was the first, and never has been another black female in that position.
Wow.
And then I also worked as a service technician for, it's DTE Energy now, but it was Muskegon, and I was the first black female in the history of Muskegon, even to this day. And that was quite a challenge.
I can only imagine. I'm dating myself, or I'm not trying to date you, but I don't think I was even around for Muskegon at the time. I've only known DTE.
Okay, yes, it was Muskegon.
Being a trailblazer, a pioneer in so many different avenues of service and employment, how has that impacted you? How does that make you feel about the struggles and now seeing more women who are trying to pursue political positions, employment positions, in different places where there have been historically male-dominated?
Well, I can tell you from self-experience, it was quite a challenge, and you have to be a special individual because you endure a lot of racism, you endure a lot of chauvinism, and when I look back over, I say if I would do, and yes, I would go over it again because it made me a stronger person, and it made me, and those challenges that I endured during that time, it made me become a fighter, and I don't give up.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. What's maybe the proudest thing that you're doing today in 2024? What gets you up in the morning? What makes you happy to go be involved, to go sit down? What place, what organization, what event, what youth and community event or activity do you just look forward to now at the age of 74?
Well, at this point in my life, I enjoy being around children and mentoring them and trying to make a difference in their life. If it's something, in my neighborhood, I have a couple, I guess they call me the popsicle lady. In the summertime, I'll be setting up, maybe doing whatever, and the doorbell will ring, and they'll just come over and I keep popsicles and ice cream, and they'll ring the doorbell, and I'll sit there and have conversations. And you would be the things that these children say, and some of the things, and one thing I can say about the youth today, they are very intelligent. During the era that I come through, it was a little different, but they are so tech savvy, and the things that fascinate them and stuff, it just, sometimes it really it warms my heart that we've got these kind of young people, and they're our future leaders.
Yes, they are. If you can leave us with one statement you would want our Muskegon viewers and those who are going to be able to watch this around the world to tell them about community involvement, engagement, learning to go through the struggle to see the positive side on the other end, what's one statement you can leave everyone today?
I'm trying to put it into so few words. And I look back at my life, you have to get involved. You must try to reach out to help someone because we are our brother's keeper. And so with that, we have to to work together, to live together, and to make it a better place in the world for my generation and the next generation, because I'm going to be in a few months a great-great-grandmother. And so I pride in working with these children. And right now I think that's where I want to be in my life, is to reach out to them to make a difference.
Thank you, Miss Patsy. I appreciate your time here.
And thank you.